So welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander, and today we're taking a look at something that's a little bit older. I mean by that is it's not brand new. It came out in 2021, and it is Stonewall Jackson's Way 2, Battles of Bull Run. And a while back, I did an unboxing for On to Richmond 2, and so I bought this at the same time as that. But this is maybe a bit less kind of immediately to the fore, but I had bought that because it was new, and it was it was kind of like in the zeitgeist, and it was fresh, and it has a lot in it, and people said it was amazing. But I have a couple of friends who play this system, which is the Great Campaigns of the American Civil War. They play it a lot and really like it. And Stonewall Jackson's Way was recommended to me as being one of the finest in the series. So I took that opportunity of like, you know what, if I'm going to dive in, let's get the new one, but let's also get one that's like, also like people very highly recommend. And it's a little bit smaller and wasn't quite so dear, is what I would say. But Great Campaigns of the American Civil War, I'm excited to play these, because this particular one is very highly soloable, but also it has a pretty, like, the complexity is listed as medium. But what people really say is you know, it's actually very easy to learn and not super mega complicated. And I find like a lot of ACW games are either like really light and kind of fluffy and nothingy, or they're like mega crunchy and like kind of dry. And there's very few games that are in between. I like the Civil War Brigade Battle series, I think that's what it's called, from Worthington. Those are really nice. But I wanted something that was maybe a bit larger in scope, because those are individual battles, whereas this is a campaign. And I think that part of waging a war at this time is very interesting to kind of simulate and play around with. So I am very excited to play this as well. And I just think I don't know, it's rare that I get it kind of excited for an American Civil War game, but this series seems to kind of have sparked something in me where I have a lot of hope, and I have a lot of kind of anticipation for this series and these games, so hopefully it can kind of live up to that, and this might be a door into that. So it's an MMP game, so you get your little red and white die. I'll be replacing those with color-appropriate dice for each of the factions. And yeah, it's a little 1.5-inch box at best, but it has a lot of stuff in it. I'm actually going to fish it all out, because it is kind of hard to get everything out of the box. So we've got a big stack of stuff here. So the first thing we have is Stonewall Jackson's Way 2, Battle of Bull Run. And this is the big rules for it. So we've got the basic game rules, and it has all of the rules that you're going to play there for this particular title. There's like a series rules in here. This is just the stuff for this box. And so the rules are like, here's the little rules for this particular stuff. It's like 3 pages. And that, in fairness, that is a very small font, but it's 3 pages. Everything else in this is set up for scenarios, orders of battle, victory conditions. This is the all green alike campaign. And people say it's really, really good, and it's a really good place to start. Then we have this little designer notes for All Green's Way, and then we have the basic game editions for Stonewall Jackson's Way, and all of the scenarios for that. And so, more than other systems, I'm a little bit more forgiving of this, because people will say, oh, it's like 2 games in 1 box. Well, in this one, you get multiple maps, and you're playing on the same geography, even though it's in different kind of stuff, different like time periods and situations. So I think that's more genuine than it can be in some other titles, where they're like, it's a few games in one. Well, it's a solo of both sides, or it's a 2-player and a solo mode. That's the same game. But yeah, this is a huge book of the 2 great campaigns that are included in this. I mean, but once again, that might be close to 70 pages, but really, it's 3 pages of rules for one campaign, 3 pages of rules for another campaign, and it's 60 pages of setup for different scenarios that you can do from massive to small. So, once again, that is a good sign for me to be able to kind of get into this and kind of get myself up and running. We will take a look at the maps here in just a second. We'll look at those last because they kind of take up the whole table. So, this is the Great Campaigns of the American Civil War Standard Basic Game Rules. This is, I think there's 1.5 in Richmond, I think, but so I might use those ones in this, but this is the 1.4 series rules. You can use this booklet for all the games in the series if you were so inclined, and there are a lot of them. I think this is volume 9, I think Richmond is volume 13. So it's not like, if you love the American Civil War, you've probably already played this, but if you haven't, this will serve you well in a very large series of games. So just understand that. And I appreciate, because these are they're originally Avalon Hill, owned by Hasbro, but they licensed them to Multiman, and Multiman, it's Stonewall 2, because they revamped everything, they redid it all. So it's the games are tried and tested, but now we have like a nice up-to-date rules style and really nice up-to-date counters and great looking maps as well. Anyway, the rules themselves, so the series rules are 23, 24 pages. So that's much less daunting than the like 70 pages that we saw in the other book. Again, that's like setup and scenarios. Sure, it's a lot of text, and it is dense. This is a war game, there's no getting around that. But once again, I'm going to rely on my 20 pages of rules, and it's going to serve me for all of the titles, if this is something that I want to get into. And this is for the basic rules, which that's where I'll definitely start. I'm sure there's advanced stuff that we can add in, but I'm not worried about learning this rule book, honestly, because I'm going to play some of this, I'm going to play some of Richmond, and whichever one I do second, I'll have to learn 3 pages of game-specific rules, instead of 30 pages for this and 30 pages for that, which is typically what I end up doing with the games that we play. So we have 1, 2, 3 counter sheets, it looks like. So, we have our... Here's the actual forces, so to speak. So here we've got our traditional infantry units and cavalry with our strength values. I believe they don't have movement values on them. Hold on, that could be a different game. I can't remember if these ones... I've been reading a lot of rules lately, but they might have like fixed... Oh, infantry move this far in this particular weather. I think I read that in this one, but I can't remember. Because they only have 2 values on them, you'll notice. But we also have our kind of leaders, so we've got Longstreet down here, we got Lee, we've got, it's hard to read these, Sumner, McDowell, Franklin, Porter, and I got a reverse side of them, but these are nice, crisp, clean MMP counters that you would expect. And then these two are quite similar. These have our organization markers, which I believe it's kind of their level of organization or disorganization, and the effects that those will have on combat movement. We have fatigue markers of 2 and 4 and 1 and 3 levels. And then some control markers and some administrative stuff down there. And on this side we have the Confederate organization, disorganization markers, artillery counters, supply, or out of supply I suppose is what I should say with those, breastwork markers, forts, and then some more admin markers down here. But this is the combat units, right? 1 sheet of combat units, and the rest of these are admin markers. So hopefully that is not too daunting for people with what you're moving on the map, because remember, we're at a campaign level, and so you're moving groups of units around. It's less like, here's my massive line across the whole of the East Front, for example, in World War II, where it's a little bit daunting. So hopefully it's manageable from that standpoint. We have our combat charts. Specifically, these are for All Green Alike and Stonewall Jackson's Way, which is this box. And these are V1.4. In Richmond, it was 1.5, so I think these I would be more wary of kind of cross-contaminating, because they probably have some specific bits and pieces, like the random events table is specifically for this box. And they may have made updates to these in the new one. So this is kind of something in the movement summary from the specific leaders and units in this game. I would not cross those over into another one. But it's a bifold. There's one for each player, and these are identical. And then we have here our terrain effects chart that is standard. Some terrain will not be used in this game, but it will be used in others. So this is identical to all the ones you see in the other games as well. And then we have these holding boxes. There's a piece of just kind of protective packing paper at the bottom of the box, don't worry about that. But these force holding boxes, where you have force counters to move around, and then you have holding boxes for units and assets, I believe. As well as we have our morale tracks down here, victory point tracks. So we're going to have our maps out, and we're going to have these out to be able to do that. And we're going to do that for both of these games. So, the last thing that we have here, I will put all this back in the box here, is the maps. And in nosing through Richmond, I was really impressed with the cartography. It was lovely. And so I'm expecting big things from this, and they seem to be the same style, and that will not be a disappointment. So let's have a look at this first map. So this is the first map, and this is the north map. Oh, hopefully we can see that here. North map for Stonewall Jackson's Way. And I really like these maps. I think they're very high quality. It's a 22 by 34, but we've got a second one that we're going to stick on the bottom. But at least I believe that's the case. Yeah, it looks like it. But again, there's lots of smaller scenarios in it where you don't need to have the whole game out, which is pretty nice. But yeah, really nice looking map. I love the details in it, and I will highlight those one more time. Just real simple stuff that like would be overlooked elsewhere in other games. But if you can see the dark green details in the hexes, like there's little like orchards and little fields that are cultivated, as well as kind of just like random kind of brush and light copses. I just think that little extra level of detail, I don't know, they didn't have to do that, and I just think it looks really cool, and you can kind of get lost in some of those details playing around on maps like this, and I don't know, I really like it. So let us open the south map. So the south map here, and we will line these up as best we can so that you can see that. Well, this one goes underneath. So you can see, now, before I mess this up any further, the north map has this big grey border along the bottom, and the south map overlays it so that it will cover it up. And it goes like this, and like this, kind of like right here. So the two maps look like this. They line up pretty, we'll just line it up here, fairly seamlessly. Put a plexis on this and you'll be good to go. And so they line up, that's probably, I don't know, 8 inches or so, maybe 10, that they cover each other up. So it's not quite 44 inches, it's a bit less than that. As such, I can turn these on my table this way, I can play it this way, and I still have at least 1.5 to 2 foot of table space here for those force charts, and for us to kind of put units out. So, some maps that take up the whole space, and then starts being really cramped on a regular table. But these ones actually have quite a lot of crossover, which I think is quite practical from the standpoint of actually being able to play on any reasonable sized table. So I really like the maps. I think they're, I don't know, there's something I really like about them. I just think they look good. And we have a ton of scenarios and content in this. There's 2 big campaigns you're going to play on this, and then you're also going to parlay these rules into other titles if you like it. So there's a lot to like from that. Always love a good series game. But that was a look at Stonewall Jackson's Way 2, Battles of Bull Run, from MMP. Please check this out if this is something that you're interested in. But I look forward to playing these. I'm kind of got the itch to try this series because I've heard very good things about it, but that it's also accessible, which is a huge thing for me. So appreciate you very much for tuning in. I've been Alexander from ThePlayersaid.com.